Hey students, open part 1 of How We Became the United States document, Google Doc, and read the questions so that you're ready to answer the questions during the video. You may pause the video at any point and rewind. Remember to turn in your questions when you are finished. And I think that's it. Enjoy the video.
I have put together a video for you, actually 3 videos, and it's titled, How Did We Become the United States? It's a very short history of the United States, specifically for you, and this is why. First, you need context. We all need context in order to learn things. So for your history and American government classes at Lakeside or at high school, if you have a context, a big picture, then it helps you learn the details more easily. And the second reason is that I want us to understand how we are part of the history of the United States. For many of us, ancestors, people who lived here before us in our families. And the third reason is that the famous Americans that we do will be clearer when we understand the context, the historical context. So you can see behind me, it looks like a closet that I'm in. So try to ignore the background here, and let's get started. Here are the 50 United States of America. There we are, Georgia. This is the continental United States, means it's on the continent of North America. This is Hawaii, which is actually way out in the Pacific Ocean, very far west of here. It's a series of islands. Alaska is actually attached to Canada, and it's far north, and it's much bigger than this. So 50 United States. What's amazing to me is how recent this all is. The last state to become a state, we'll find out in the third video, which state that was. State number 50 didn't become a state until 2 years before I was born, which is very recent. Well, kind of recent. I'm kind of old too. All right, here we go.
This land is your land. This land is my land.
From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me. Alright, you guys, that's the first and the last time that I am going to sing for you. I will do almost anything to get your attention. So I sang this song as a little kid in school, and I think everybody in the whole country sang this song. Even my daughters, like 30, 40 years later, sang this song in school. So we grew up believing that this land was made for us, for me. Well, let's look at this land. Here's North America. I'll draw you a little outline of North America, starting maybe up here, somewhere up here, Washington State, border with Canada. We go through the Great Lakes. There's Maine, our northernmost state. There's the New York Island. This is the Atlantic Ocean, the Atlantic coast. There is Florida, unfortunately looking a little bit phallic, but we're going to ignore that. By the way, there's the coast of Georgia on the Atlantic coast. Here is the Gulf of Mexico and Texas, the Rio Grande, right there. There we are. And the border with Mexico, and there's California, the redwood forests. So our continental United States is something like that. Alaska is this part up here. There's Alaska, and it's kind of separated from the United States by Canada. So who lived here before those boundaries came to be? The earliest humans in North America probably came here from Asia about 14,000 years ago. Let's look at this timeline here. BC goes that way, AD goes that way. That's also called BCE. So this is like the kind of like the year zero in terms of modern time, how we measure time. If you are a Christian, this is when Jesus was born. It is, if you're a Muslim, Muhammad lived right around there sometime. If you're Jewish, then you're looking at this period here for your history. So, and that was, think about how long ago those things were, like 2,000 years ago when those things happened. So it is mind-blowing that Native Americans have lived in this land for that long, 12,000 years, and then 2,000 more, 14,000 years. Here's a map of how they came, that we believe they came from Asia over time, down into North America. Here is, well, here's some pictures I got off Google Image. I don't know what they really look like, but this is from Google Image. You get the idea. Okay, so Native Americans have been here for 14,000 years, and there are still Native Americans in this land. They occupied the land for most of human history by a long shot. Here is just a picture of and names of some of the tribes and nations of these people. Everything changed in 1492. You know what happened? We're about to celebrate it, or recognize this day on Monday. I'm making this video on Columbus Day weekend. So 1492, what happened? The age of exploration begins. In 1492, Christopher Columbus led a group of Europeans, and they came to this land by accident. They were trying to get to Asia. You might know that the 3 ships they came on were called the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. So here's a painting that is probably not very realistic, but it does show maybe the surprise and wonderment when we have these Europeans who come to a land, and these Native Americans, they've never seen each other before. It's almost like you or I would go to another planet and see people. We have no language in common. They spoke Native American dialects, and these people probably spoke Portuguese and Spanish. But here's the thing. They called these people Indians because they thought they were in India. So, let me make myself go away here. Here's a European map. I'm sorry, a world map. There's Europe, there's India, there's China. Back then, the Europeans did a lot of business with Asia, meaning trade. They made money by trading with people in Asia. You can imagine that traveling across land to do business when you had no cars, no trains, no engines, was very time-consuming, dangerous, and expensive. And so Columbus and others said, hey, what if we could get to Asia by ship? They believed that the world was round, and so they said, let's try to get to Asia this way, going west across the world. And maybe if we sail long enough, we will reach Asia. And they were kind of right. They would go around the world and hit Asia, except they didn't know about one big thing. This giant piece of land right here, what we now call North America and South America. So they got here and they said, oh, Indians. These don't look like Indians I've ever seen, but I guess they must be Indians. All right. Columbus and his men saw the beautiful land, and they saw gold. They returned 3 times. They took some Native Americans back with them to Europe and told the Europeans, the word started to spread that there was land to be explored and money to be made. And so the age of exploration begins. Explorers from several countries in Europe began coming to the New World. So now we're on a new timeline. Here is 500 years before today. So we've taken that little tiny bit of time that was up here and we've stretched it out, okay? So this period is just about 60 years, when explorers from England, France, Spain, and Portugal started to explore the world. They called this the New World. It was new for them. They came in ships like that. They had no engines, no power other than the wind in the sails. A quick break from history. Countries, people, and languages, European explorers, 1500 to 1750. So the Portugal is the name of the country, and the people are the Portuguese, and the language is Portuguese. Spain, you know that country, of course, and you know that the people are the Spanish people, and the language, of course, is Spanish. France is the country, the people are called the French, and the language is French. England and Britain are really the same country. And so we can call those people the English or the British. The language they speak is English. And I think you already know, United States of America is the country. We usually refer to people as Americans, even though it's really just Americans in the United States. And our language, of course, is English, which is why you're in my class, to learn English. Okay, but speaking of learning English, Spanish was here before English. So we're still in the age of exploration. Spain was the leader at the beginning of this period. And look where they got. So here's brown for Spanish, okay? Here's California. Here's Texas. Here's Florida. The Spanish were in this part of the New World, of course, all of Mexico, much of South America, way before the English were. So Spanish was the first language spoken in the New World. I'm sorry, the first European language spoken in the New World. So if anybody ever tells you English only in this country, then you can say, yeah, I'm learning English, but you can give them a history lesson. English hasn't always been the language in this country. So, colonization. To colonize is to send people to live in or to settle and govern another country. And so this period is called the colonization of America. It happened over about 200 years. And notice we're talking about North and South America. So you guys, most of you, if you're from this part of the world, we share the same history here. So here is Spanish territory. Here is Portuguese. Of course, you know that in Brazil they speak Portuguese. Here is the English territory, right here. Georgia is right about there. This was French. You might not know that the French claimed that part of the United States. And that's actually Russian. They settled Alaska. But basically, the Europeans came to this land and said, we're here, we're going to take over. This is our land now. And they claimed this territory. So, the colonization of America. You all need to know the evils in the colonization of America. The Europeans mostly benefited from this. It was mostly good for the Europeans, but there were two groups of people who did not benefit, and those groups were Africans and Native Americans. So the first were the Africans. For a good 200 years, really it started earlier than that, early 1600s, there was the slave trade. Millions of Africans did not choose to come to the New World. They were kidnapped and sold as slaves. So they were kidnapped in Africa and sold to slave traders. They were put on boats and put in terrible places in the boats, usually down inside and where you would normally put cargo. And if they survived the journey to the New World, then they were sold again to become slaves, sold to the people here. And this happened in North America and in South America and also in Europe. Today, in our country, we have many problems, and that's the problems that really were began with this terrible part of our history. They're connected to this part of our history. The other group who got a bad deal were Native Americans. So the Native Americans, especially in North America, got a bad deal. Most Native Americans died from disease, and we killed many also in wars, but most of them died from disease. 90% of Native Americans died after the Europeans came to this land. And the Europeans brought viruses, and the Native Americans did not have immunity from the virus, and they caught the viruses and they died. Then the ones who survived, the Europeans said, or the Americans of European ancestry said, you need to leave this land. This is our land. It's not yours. And so they were forced off their land. So they got a very, very bad deal. All right, so this is the last slide for this video. So now we're at 1776. We've got three main groups of people. We have Native Americans who are still here. They hadn't all died then. People of European heritage and people of African heritage who were mostly enslaved at this point. We didn't have states. This was not the United States. We had the people here speaking Spanish, people here speaking French, here speaking English. This was the British, and the European countries were ruling these areas. Even though they were across the water, the English said this is ours, the French said this is ours, and the Spanish said this is ours. All right, so next video, we will see what happens.